The Diesel Performance Podcast contains explicit language.
Thank you for joining us again. This is Paul Wilson.
And I'm Danny Voss.
And you're listening to the Diesel Performance Podcast. Danny, we got a ton of stuff going on lately, huh?
We always have a ton of stuff going on, Paul.
Yeah, so April 21st, 22nd, 23rd, you can find Danny and myself, along with the rest of the Diesel Performance Podcast crew and the guys from Calibrated Power, which includes our producer, Rich. We'll all be down in Indianapolis at the Lucas Oil Stadium doing what I would say is probably the biggest dyno, sled pull, and drag race event of the year.
In the country, in the world.
Yeah, I mean, these are the biggest, baddest trucks that anybody has built. They don't fit into any classifications. The only real rule is they have to be on a truck chassis and a truck body. And that's about the only rule for the whole competition.
This is the Super Bowl, I would say.
Yeah. So it's getting really big. So we're going to be down there. We'll be broadcasting live on Facebook. We'll be doing mini episodes throughout the weekend. We'll be producing some big episodes after the show. Just expect a ton of media from the podcast around the Ultimate Call-Out Challenge. And then, of course, we always want to thank our sponsors from Calibrated Power for setting up the show and allowing us to be able to do this. Gives us a chance to get in, put podcasts together, and come up with great episodes like we have for you today with the Mauch brothers. How's it going, guys?
Going good.
Yeah, it's going pretty good.
Absolutely. So we have Lane and Coleman Mauch in-house.
Yep.
You guys had your truck on the dyno today. We're not going to discuss any numbers. I've been told that. But you guys play in the dirt a little bit.
Yeah. We primarily use the truck for sled pulling. We've done a little bit of drag racing, not much. Don't focus on that with it as much. But we thoroughly enjoy truck pulling, and that's kind of what we've used it for the last couple of years. So.
Okay, tell me a little bit about the truck you had here today.
Well, it's a 2001. Purchased a truck a couple years ago, 3 years ago actually, and in the beginning didn't really have big plans, but 3 weeks later, motor's out, trans is out, front end, rear end, starting from scratch.
It's an LB7 Duramax for our listeners. It's a four-door long bed truck. And it didn't take long. He's telling us to start messing with it.
Well, it had when he first got it, he picked it up real cheap. It was that's what he wanted to buy, a cheap truck so he could modify it really. And at the time he didn't know much about that kind of stuff. He was kind of learning. He went and bought the truck when I was working, so I couldn't go with him. He brought it back, and I'm like, yeah, it's got a dead miss. There's this injector. It ended up being an injector, but he pulled the whole motor out and done all that. And it's like, man, I'm like, you could have just put an injector in it, But it went pretty far after that.
I just want to go back even further a little bit. The reason why these guys are on the show, because this truck of theirs is one of the most competitive trucks in northern Illinois and southern Wisconsin, in my opinion, that it's out there for the sled pull circuit, so to speak.
That's going ahead, not back.
Well, that's why we're here. That's why we're here talking today. Like, what I always wonder, what are these guys doing with this guest? And let's talk about it. Like, this truck is something to talk about. That's why we're here today. We just got off the dyno. What was it, 5-10 minutes ago?
Yeah.
And you guys laid it down on the dyno. And I would say, well, you squeezed a little bit more horse, a little bit more torque out of it than last year. But what are your intentions this year with it?
Well, really, we're trying to focus on this new Outlaw Class that they got started here in southern Wisconsin. It's a pretty cool class, just street outlaw. I mean, power wise, it's unlimited. You can really do whatever you want. I don't even think they really open the hood.
No,
but they you can't have a welded up suspension. You can have suspension stops and stuff like that, but it's got to be factory suspension and drive line, and other than that, anything goes. You got to have the safety stuff. You got to have drive shaft loops, U-joint shields. I mean, the stuff that you need anyway.
So, do they have a weight requirement?
I think 8,000.
8,000 pounds.
Okay,
yeah.
So and also they have a hitch requirement as well.
Yeah, and I think that's 26 inches.
25, 26 inches.
There's rules. I can't really remember, but
right. Those are made to be broken, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty basic stuff for the Outlaw Class. It's really for the guys who wanted to build a badass truck but wanted something that they could still drive.
Exactly. Exactly. That's what I always thought too. Worley's, Jason Worley, they're pumping out compound LMLs all the time. It's like, well, they can't really sled pull in a class. Right. Well, now these guys can. Yeah. I think it's a really neat class.
I think it's really interesting that it's going to open up the field. And I know, obviously, as you guys have been building towards this, you've probably sled pulled in a few different classes.
Yeah. Last year, and in the first year, kind of initially we built geared more towards the 2.5 class, and We're from north central Illinois, and so we're pulling around the ISP. They don't have a 2.5 class or like a hot street class. So that's how we got into traveling a little bit more. You know, I like pulling right in our backyard.
Yeah.
But
you guys have to go look for some trouble, huh?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so obviously now a few years of sled pulling, I'm sure there's some stuff that you guys have learned along the way, stuff that you went out the first season and probably did it wrong. So what's some advice you could give to somebody that's new to sled pulling, that's starting out in like a work stock or a 2.5 class?
I would say definitely setup is way more important than power. I mean, everybody's talking about big numbers and everything, but you got to put it to the ground.
Okay.
Yeah, like the suspension's got to get set up, right? Danny knows all this. He had to deal with this too on the clean sweep. Hopping is like one of the worst things that you can have going on. So if you can get that kind of figured out on what you need to do, you know, on a Chevy, just remind everybody knows they got weak front ends. I mean, if you just put a strong, you know, steering assembly in there, you're good. You never have to worry about it again. They're as strong as a solid axle at that point.
Yeah.
So I hate watching them go out there and break, you know. But
man.
Stuff like that, gearing, depending on how much power you got, you know, you could figure out the gearing. That's kind of stuff you learn as you go, because not every truck is the same, you know. But
right. Well, when it comes to suspension, what kind of stuff did you do to fix the hop?
Ours, honestly, we've been really lucky. It's never hopped. Like, I don't think it ever had even once.
In
But
2 years of pulling, we've never
quad
had it
cab
hop.
long bed, it's hard to get it to hop,
exactly.
right?
That helps us a lot. But we have suspension stops. And we don't have it so it raises the bed up anymore. You know, I mean, it's just like right where the factory suspension sits. That's where the stops are, and that's where we got them right now. It depends on the class. Some class you got to have an inch of travel or something like that, which ours are adjustable.
Okay.
But that's basically for that. I mean, we don't have any limiting straps or any of that kind of stuff.
Really?
I think that kind of can create a hop sometimes, but like I said, it depends on the truck. A single cab long bed would be a hoppy truck.
Ron
know?
Burgundy, my truck, my LB7, that thing's a hopper. And everywhere I go, it hops to the finish line. And I get lucky. It don't break too much.
Yeah.
I get lucky, though.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's short of a wheelbase, right? And all that weight coming down on the ass end, it's pretty obvious, you know, what causes it. So I think there's definitely an advantage when you're going out to pick a truck, right? But you still have to make weight. So how close are you to weight? I mean, no weight bracket on that truck, right?
No. Well, last year we did hang some weight in some of the 2.5 classes that allowed it.
Okay.
And everything was fine. But no, we don't hang no weight out front.
Okay.
We'll put it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, those model years and stuff like that, even I think probably up to 2010, they're pretty light.
Yeah.
Even a crew cab long bed. You know, you get into the LML, they're a lot heavier chassis. The full box frame, I mean, they're just heavier in itself, and you can see that in a crew cab long bed. I know they're about 8,000 pounds close to an LML, but these ones are pretty light, so we're fortunate with that.
Gotcha.
So, Paul, just so you know that these boys are one of the only guys that can take the clean sweep to the house. It's one of the few trucks that have. Every time I go to a pull, I'm like, damn, these guys are here again. I'm like, can't you guys miss one event so I can, you know, take the top first or second, you know? But you guys are always number one or number two in every single event you go to, and I just want to congratulate you for that. It's a huge accomplishment. Everybody knows your guys' truck by now, around our area at least. This truck looks just like a basic four-door long bed truck, and then when you hook that thing to the sled, you're like, wow.
So what are you using to make that power? What are we running under the hood, guys?
Just a single, like, S4 base turbo.
Okay.
150% injectors, twin pumps, your basic stuff for a Duramax, I guess.
Yeah, that's a pretty straightforward build. I mean,
you know, the motor's built. Yeah. You know, it's got all. I mean, I don't think you could do anything more but fill the block in that. So, pretty much how everybody does it, I guess.
Yeah.
You get to a certain level, but.
Okay. How about future plans? Where are we going with this? It's running Outlaw Class this season. We're at X whatever horsepower number we are. Are we going to go bigger in the future, or is this a wait and see, and this might be the cap? Or
Well, for sure, you know, we got to see how this goes. We've, you know, in the back of your mind, you think about having some big twins someday and just having a sweet, you know, street truck
Yeah.
someday.
Someday, yeah. We might. I don't know. Like last year in the spring, we took it to Byron.
Yeah. How'd it do?
I think he ran 1166 at 118, which is pretty respectable for that big truck, you know. I mean, it's pretty good. We thought about doing that this fall maybe too, but we'd have to put different gears in it.
Yeah.
Put like 342s in there, kind of what you want for the drag strip anyway.
Are you running 410s now?
456s.
456s,
Yeah.
okay. Why'd you go with that gear set?
It was something we learned. We started with 373s, went to 342s, went to 456s. So we got a pile of gears right now. It's like I said before, the gear thing is if you're doing it and you're learning, and I guess you're not getting advice from everybody, I suppose. You just kind of do that. You figure it out. I mean, we didn't know. It was a learning process. So,
what prompted you to start playing with the gears? Like, what was the idea there? What were you trying to accomplish, or what problem did you have?
Well, last year when we did some changes in a power gain, you know, and you look at that and your wheel speed and you try and do that math with the gear and everything, we crunched a lot of numbers, and we tried the 342s running third gear, and we were just blowing the tires off. We were going down the track at like 4,600 RPM.
Yeah, I don't know. And we were getting beat.
Yeah.
You know, like not that happens, you know, but there was guys that we pulled against before too, and it's like, man, they're really putting a whooping on us.
Yeah.
And then we ended up putting 456s in there, and it was like, wow.
So the problem you were having was wheel speed. So you guys actually wanted to get more wheel speed and less RPM?
Yes.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's a fine line there. You can get too high a wheel speed, and then it just, like I said, I mean, I don't know. And we might not have it perfected yet either. We don't know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's the thing with sled pulling. I feel like every pull, you're questioning the entire build. Right? Where you're like,
Yep.
everything's wrong now.
Before and after every time, pretty much you think about it. You know, even if you win, and you only win by 3 feet or something like that, it's just like, you know, you start thinking about it. You know, it's like, what the heck happened? You know, so
I think you guys are on the right track by doing it piece by piece, though, because a lot of guys I see do, let's say, 5 changes, and now they did really well. Well, one of those 5 changes was the difference maker.
Exactly.
They don't know which one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Something I always want to ask sled pull guys out about. Are you one of those guys walking around poking the dirt before every pull? You got a stick out there looking at it?
No, I mean,
really.
it is kind of nice if you're able to, like, step on the track.
Yeah.
You know, you can kind of feel that.
Mm-hmm.
Like
What do you do differently based on track conditions?
we can't with the setup like we got, really, I suppose.
Tire pressure is maybe the one thing that you might adjust your tire pressure a little bit, you know.
Where do you adjust it, and based on what?
If it's a looser track, you know, we lower the front tires a little bit more, maybe lower the back tires a little bit more. If it's a tighter track and there's been some pulling going on before it's our class or our turn, and you see some guys braking, you know, maybe you air up the tires a little bit, and it gives you a little bit more forgiveness in your drive line.
Okay.
You got to use your ichrometer, I call it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And one night we were down in Ottawa, Illinois, and as the night progressed, the moisture in the dirt just surfaced. And the track conditions can change so fast, even from the first pull in the class to the last pull. So you always have to really be watching, like you guys said, the competition. What are they breaking? What are they doing wrong? What are they doing good?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a loaded question. You got to be really on top of what's going on at that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. How about some other tips? Now that you're up in the Outlaw class, what's different about it than the 2.5 class? What do you do differently?
I don't think there's much different. I mean, other than the broad range of what you see, trucks that show up, you know.
Yeah.
Because power-wise, anything goes. So you get single turbos, even modified stock housing turbos, you know, and then compounds. I'm sure there's been I know there's been triple turbos, and there probably are some guys that spray nitrous and stuff.
Yeah.
That seems dangerous, but
You guys have never sprayed nitrous in
No.
the setup?
Never.
no injectables at all.
No.
Nothing.
What you listeners can't see at home is how wide their eyes got when they both said no and shook their heads rapidly.
No,
like,
yeah.
Like we're going to do it this year?
No.
Yes.
We have zero.
Yes.
We have zero plan on using any nitrous. I guess
You can hear
breaking
the
Danny's
crowd.
heart.
No, the crowd can hear if you turn on if that solenoid opens and you got a good ear, you can hear that.
It's
crowd.
allowed in
you can,
Outlaw Class,
yeah.
though, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, you can spray injectables. You water, meth, nitrous.
Yeah, you can do any of that.
Yeah.
I think that's playing with fire.
Are you just worried about the motor staying together with the nitrous at this level?
Well, I mean, guys have pushed these trucks way further than where we are just on straight diesel fuel. I think
Right.
it's unnecessary, and you're just playing Russian roulette.
At least in the dirt. On the track, I mean, the drag strip, of course, I mean, I could see it. But
Yeah.
I think we've seen some trucks do it and listen to them, and you can hear them, like, spike RPM, like, they're really screaming some RPM. But and even tire speed, it's like an instant tire speed.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you necessarily always want that.
I agree.
On the dirt,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, maybe I'd be proved wrong sometime. I don't know.
I've sprayed-
because I haven't
They'd
done
never
it.
admit
so.
to it. You'd never
I
know.
mean, I've never done it.
Somebody would
so.
have to admit to using nitrous on the
Yeah.
track. And
I'll admit I've used it on my truck on the track and ISP
While sled
event.
pulling?
While sled pulling. I got on video like probably 4 or
fucking
5 events.
cheater.
How'd it feel?
It felt awesome, but it didn't help me. I still lost.
Yeah.
So when you spray nitrous and you still lose, you're like, man, I'm so far behind the winner. I'm chasing so much here. That's my personal truck that I spray every once in a while, and I feel like in sled pulling, you got to have it set up for that. And if you're going to do that, you're really asking for problems opening the door for a lot of issues.
Potentially, yeah. Yeah, I would think that. Yeah. I mean, I'm not necessarily worried about the motor. I mean, the motors have gotten pretty durable. I think built Duramaxes are pretty crazy.
Yeah.
If Pfeiffer's do our motor, I think you guys deal with them too and stuff. They're phenomenal. I think so.
Steve and Mary out of Freeport, Illinois,
Yep.
they are great people and very knowledgeable in what they do.
Oh, yeah.
If
We
you're-
wouldn't go anywhere else.
If you have a Piper sticker on your truck, you better think twice before you start running your mouth to that person, because there's something that sticker costs more than $5,000. I can tell you that.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk tires, guys. This is always a big discussion for sled pullers, all the way from work stock up to Outlaw Class. What are you running for tires? What have you run in the past that didn't work?
Well, now we went to the famous BFG all-terrains.
Everybody.
Kind of seems like that's the mainstream tire across the entire United States. We were running Goodyear Duratrax
And you didn't
the
like
first
them?
year and a half. They were all right. We had went to a couple of events and didn't do so hot. And when you start looking around, we're the only ones there that didn't have BFG all-terrains. And I know that we
And
were...
that was actually at one event. That is true. Like, every single truck at that event had, like, because actually this event was kind of a streetish deal anyway,
Yeah.
And every single truck had all-terrains except us,
Jesus.
and we got killed. I think we almost got dead last.
Yeah,
in the class.
last, second to last.
It was so that really gets you thinking. It's like, what the heck, But that was something. Yeah.
That's what's awesome about you guys. You're obviously humble about what you're doing. You could admit to failure. And a lot of guys, they don't talk about their struggle to get where you are today. So that's why I'm glad we're having you on the show, because a lot of guys are just starting out and they wonder, man, what do I do next? Like, how do I make this better?
Yeah, sled pulling's a tough sport. It's one of those where everybody in it, whether it's their first day or their 10th year, everybody tells you you're going to break something. Like, this is that one sport where they guarantee, don't worry about what you're going to break next. Trust me, there's 2 or 3 things that are potential. So it's hard. It's hard to stay in it year after year after year. I know one of the things that keeps a lot of guys in is the points race. Do they have a points system for Outlaw Class, or is it?
I think they do. Last year was the first year for it.
Okay.
And I'm assuming it was like a preliminary thing, but I think they did have points.
I believe
and
so.
I think they're going to continue that, which is one reason why we kind of want to do it now. Being it being that far up there, I mean, we couldn't chase points necessarily.
Okay.
We'd
Hey,
like to do good at every event that we go to,
Right.
But
I live on the state line. If you guys need me to fill in as a driver, just let me know.
there you go. Yeah. I think the points thing is awesome, and I think that would get a lot more people. Like, if there was something here in northern Illinois, central northern Illinois, a street diesel class like that up there with points would be huge, I think. So, like, for example, the last event for Outlaw Class was in Richland Center last year, Wisconsin. and 35 trucks just in the Street Outlaw Class showed up.
Holy shit.
I mean, we were blown away when we seen that too. And that's for the first year for that class too. And 35 trucks went to that event.
So can we talk about that day?
Yeah.
That day was phenomenal. I did not get a chance to make it to that day. My wife was 9 months pregnant, basically, and I wanted to be there.
Excuses.
Listen here, okay. But hearing everybody's excitement about what you guys accomplished that day, it blew everybody away. You guys took on the top 40 trucks in, basically tri-state area. And I feel like you did so well, and now you kind of have a big target on your back. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's kind of not what we were going for from the beginning, right? The truck looks, like Danny said earlier, it doesn't look like anything. It's a dented up white work truck. That's what it is. Which is what I wanted from the beginning. But
Yeah, we tried to fly under the radar for a while, but it's not working anymore.
It's tough, right? Because you want to be competitive, right?
Yeah.
So you want to do good, and every time you do good, people start to notice you.
Yeah, which is cool. That's kind of the whole point of doing the sport.
Yeah.
You would nobody do it if the crowd wasn't there.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I kind of like the stealth look. You go to an event. And we do kind of look like rednecks we get with the truck that we pull it there with, the trailer that we were using. It was just a redneck setup, and we got cinder blocks under the ramps to hold so the ramps don't bend down. It's
Yes.
You go up there looking like that, and people are watching you unload, and they're like, "Wow, what are these guys doing?" It's
Some high class engineers over here, right?
So it's cool if you do good when they're probably thinking something about you, and you do good, So
And when they're raising an eyebrow, and you're like, just wait a couple hours and then make an opinion.
That's the part that kills me about sled pulling. It's the couple hour wait. Or let's hurry up and get here at 4 o'clock in the afternoon so we can wait to pull until 7. Drives me nuts.
You are so impatient,
Drives
Paul.
me nuts.
Paul is the most impatient dude
Schedule
I
a
know.
time for me to be there. I'll pull and go home.
it is.
Let me know when I win.
That does kind of suck.
I think that day at Richland Center, we waited around for like 10 hours before we pulled.
We didn't get back home till almost 3 a.m.
Wow.
That was a long day.
Richland Center.
16 hours, you're out of the house for 30 seconds of fun.
And
yeah.
it was worth it though. It was worth it.
I think the top 3 guys at that event were from 3 different states.
Really?
Which is, that just goes to show you how,
Much needed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A class like that is needed
Yes,
for sure.
definitely.
Well, you guys, it's kind of unfair to you. You don't have a home, basically. You don't have a class. You can just go to all these events, and every time they say pop the hood, now you're sweating bullets. You're like, I don't want to be in this class, if that's the case.
Yeah.
So they actually had something arranged for a guy like you guys to do that. So I wish that they implemented that in a lot of different areas, but that's a huge favor to ask.
I think we're going to start seeing it. I think, like you guys said, the demand is out there and the trucks are out there. And I think, guys, it's tough for most people to build something that's $50,000, $60,000 in modifications plus the cost of a truck to only sled pull. There's just how many guys can do that, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Like most of us need something that, we can use for a few different purposes, even if it's going out drag racing here and there again.
I completely agree with that. Yep.
And on that bombshell, no, I'm just kidding. Okay, so sled pulling, one of the things that I always find interesting is at what point do you say I'm done with the season, right? So if the motor goes, if the turbo goes, if the trans goes, how do you decide, yes, I'm going to fix it, I need to get back out to the next event, or how do you decide we'll see you guys next season?
Well, I would say that if the motor went, we'd be done for the year for sure.
At least a year. That'd be tough.
Yeah.
But
we've both invested so much time and money into it. And my brother Coleman, he's a single man, so bachelor. He's got a little bit more room there to play. I'm married with 2 children, and so you imagine that anger from my wife every time I buy a truck part.
and she gets mad at me too because I talk up the parts. I want the parts to be bought too. So, but we've been lucky on we haven't broken anything during the season.
Oh wow!
At all sled pulling.
That is something to be said.
I know. We've only been doing it for 3 years, but you could also look at it as we've been doing it for 3 years and we haven't broken anything. But
you better knock on some wood. We got wood around here. I'll do it for you.
Now I'm scared now that I said that. Yeah. But
well, Coleman has been living and breathing this diesel performance for 8 or 10 years, very heavily, and me. I didn't know much about any of it when I first bought the truck and decided to tear into it. And so, and we had a help from good friends, that helped us out with, setup, you should do this, make sure you do this. And then making sure that you're not, going cheap on the important parts. You got to invest the time and money, do your homework.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to do it right, because like you said, you put so much into it. You can't show up to the track and find out that $50 you saved just fucked you.
Yeah.
And that's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, and I think driveline components are kind of that. You break a drive shaft, man, that can take out a transfer case or tail housing on an Allison. I'm sure you guys have seen that numerous times. That could get expensive after a while. Stuff like that. We did from the beginning, and it's held together. We did have a transfer case issue, but it's kind of ironic. Like, it was stuck in 4-wheel-drive. So, like, you would think, well, that's not a problem, right? But, I mean, we were like, well, there's probably something wrong inside of it. That didn't happen during the season. Well, it could have happened during the season, but we start working on it early and way before spring, like in the winter.
Okay.
And that's kind of when we realized it, so we could get all that taken care of. Getting ready for the season. I think it's a big thing to keep it together, I guess.
Do you got a ritual for when you go out? Do you got like this is our procedure for when we go sled pulling?
We talk to each other the whole time when we're in line. Whoever's driving, one of us will be at the window. Make sure you do this. Double checking everything. Mm-hmm. Because fortunately we haven't went out and really made any mistakes like that going down the track or forgetting something. In Peoria last year, I did make one fumble. I locked a converter, and I think, what was our wheel speed? 3 mile an hour.
Yeah,
killed the truck.
The recording required it. Yeah, like 3 mile an hour is what it said.
But,
that
like
didn't
dumping
work.
the clutch, but and I didn't think I could kill that Charger, like that. But it can happen.
So who's driving more?
It's 50-50.
Is it?
The first year I drove the whole time. I let Coleman drove once, because initially I was the one that was funding everything and doing everything. This last year,
and your wife found out you were doing that?
Yeah. It's funny. Never went on a honeymoon.
she kind of calls it the honeymooner.
Yeah. So my honeymoon's got 4 wheels under it. But,
oh man, that's awesome.
But and then last year, Coleman, he had put so much time into it, building it, and knows it inside and out. So he decided to invest with me, and then that helped do some more changes and things like that. So.
Now, Coleman, you have a background in diesel performance. What do you do, bud?
Yeah, I work at a Kenworth Volvo dealer in Peru, Illinois.
Okay.
So I don't know. I've been working there for like over 7 years when I got out of school. Love it.
Really?
So, yeah. I really
7
like
years
it.
of doing anything and to still say love it when you describe it.
I do enjoy my job and what I do there. A lot of diagnosis stuff, emission stuff. Keeps me really busy.
Yeah.
But
and it turns out, Paul, these guys have listened to a majority of our podcast episodes.
No, I don't believe
I think
that.
I've listened to every single one of them, really.
Yeah. Now, to bring that up, I made a mention when we went Facebook Live last week on our 101st episode that Coleman and Lane have one of the coolest trucks around our area, and I had made a very bold statement that if and I'm a rooter for this truck. I root for this thing left and right. If you were to take this truck to Indy, it would seriously, it's set up so right. I think it would compete. I don't think it would, possibly do anything there, but it's on the track. It's how it's set up to basically destroy everything in its path.
Well, I think that's a good note on kind of the progression of diesel performance. What we saw initially was guys throw a semi-turbo on their 12-valve, right? And how far we've come from there to where then sled pulling came around and got really big, to where sled pulling in the Midwest is you either eat, sleep, breathe sled pull or you don't, right? Like that's the passion behind it. And we're starting to see those trucks build up. We started to see these classes build up. And then we started to see the politics come into these sled pull organizations. And a lot of people have gotten fed up with it. They don't want to argue over a fucking S300 billet wheel being allowed, but a cast wheel that,
it is pretty,
shit like this,
it
like
is
that
pretty
nobody
crazy.
cares about, where it gets crazy. Now they're starting to build these classes that I think are for users. They're for people who own the trucks, not just the 5 or 4 hardcore enthusiasts who showed up to the meeting. And that's where I kind of see this Outlaw Class going, is progressing to something like the UCC build, to where eventually you could take anybody, any truck owner could take their truck from work stock to Outlaw to UCC build. And it's possible now.
It's very possible, but I think it's going to be from the honeymooner to the retirement 401k truck. Go to the UCC build.
Yeah.
Don't tell her that.
No.
Honey, I blew the retirement. It's okay though. It's okay.
I love it. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been Lane and Coleman Mauch. We really appreciate you guys coming out and talking about your truck with us.
I'm Danny Voss.
And I'm Paul Wilson. Thanks so much for listening.
Calibrated Power Solutions, the leading North American developer of clean diesel power and home of DuramaxTuner.com, is the proud sponsor of the Diesel Performance Podcast. Calibrated Power develops emissions and quick tunes for a wide variety of diesel powertrains, including the Duramax, Cummins, Jeep, John Deere, and many more. For more information and the best customer service in the industry, check out calibratedpower.com or call 815-568-7920. That's 815-568-7920. To reach out to the Diesel Performance Podcast, send us a message through Facebook or email Paul at DuramaxTuner.com or Danny at DuramaxTuner.com.
This truck is something to talk about. That's why we're here today. We just got off the dyno. What was it, 5-10 minutes ago?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you guys laid it down.